What's going on, y'all? What's going on? It's another episode of DJ Fat Snack Bikes and Reviews. Today we're going to talk about two of DC's animated shows. We got the Harley Quinn that's going on, and we have My Adventures with Superman going on. So, let's see. What do I want to get started with? I go to get started with Superman. We're going to talk about episodes 7 and 8. I am a little behind, but hey, whatever. I'm still reviewing them. Still getting it out there, right? So this is the episode where now we have got all the secrets and all the things out of the way. We have Lois know who Superman is. Clark told her he loves her, or yeah, for the most part, tells her he loves her. Yeah. So it starts off with them planning a date, their first date, and with that, you have both of them doing these elaborate schemes of how to make this day go well, where you got Lois who just wants to just do something nice, and you have Clark who wants to make sure everything is nice as well, but no Superman hijinks going on. But that is really like disrupted. First of all, you have Jimmy coming in on both of them. That's how you know what's going on. He comes in on Clark first, and then he goes in on Lois. But when he leaves Clark, the Superman hijinks start, and we get the introduction of this universe's Mr. Mixoplex. I guess I'm saying the name right. I know it's weird how you say it, but it's our favorite interdimensional trickster. He's up here telling Clark, hey, there are different versions of yourself everywhere, and I've seen all of them. You're no different. You're just like all the rest of them. And he explains to him how he needs his help, and Lois needs his help too as well. So he turns into Superman. That was basically his way of showing him that he knew who he was or whatnot. Because again, Clark is still trying to keep up the charade of him being Superman around random people or people who obviously know who he is. So then we go and we turn into when Jimmy is now looking at Lois and see her elaborate plans as well, as far as trying to get the date going. And they are met up with what they call the Legion. I think they call them the Legion of Loises, or the League of Loises, or whatever, which is like a whole different thing. This show they make sure they just take a lot of liberties and just changing up lore and making it everything it's own or whatever. So yeah, so she meets up with them. They tell her that they need her help so they can help her Clark, basically her Superman. So when she's going to talk to them, our Lois gets like confused and wonder like something's not right, and she sees that the other ones are keeping like secrets, so she goes to try to snoop around. She finds out that the information she needs to get is in a specific place. When we get back to where Clark and Mixoplex is now trying to do some stuff, he takes him to a place to say, and he basically tricks him this whole time, because again, that's Mixoplex. That's how he does. He basically tricks him into breaking into what you would consider maybe like a museum or something like that. And then when Clark realizes that he breaks in, he opens the door, a mechanical robot dog comes and attacks him. He finally gets past all that. And then now he's like trying to find out what's going on. Mixoplex tells him that, hey, oh my God, he's freaking out about all these different artifacts that's in this museum. And, as a DC fan, you start to see a lot of this stuff. Like, one of the things you see is, like, you see the vault, and it has, like, a whole bunch of different artifacts in it, different hero artifacts and stuff. Like, you got the Dr. Fate's helmet, you got the Stargirl staff, even the Green Lantern ring is in there. So I'm like, wonder who that ring belongs to in that universe or whatnot. Well, that was our universe. That was the 616, if I'm not mistaken, when he said it. So I think that was supposed to be our universe, where we where our comic books lie, basically. Um, so yeah, they go through this whole thing. Clark is kind of pissed because he was tricked, but before he could get really upset, Mixoplex tricks him again and takes him to this area where he really was trying to get the attention of the Loises to come find him. So before all that happens with Lois and the other Loises, the League of Loises and Jimmy, you find out that they have their version of a Jimmy, which is a girl. They find out that three of the Loises are it's two men. I mean, it's one man version, which is Louis. That's why I'm getting mixed up with the names. And then there's two other Loises that's there on top of our universal Lois. So they come up with a plan. Well, they don't come up with a plan. Jimmy uses himself as a distraction, not thinking that he was going to be a distraction, by announcing how he's getting ready to take footage and videos of stuff so he could put it on his thing, because I forget what the name of his little website is. And then you couldn't find out that the other Jimmy, which would it be considered Jimmy? Did they even give her a name? But it's a girl version of Jimmy Olsen. And she was like, "Oh, I'm one of those too. I do that too. Oh, you gotta show me some of your stuff. Let me show you some of my stuff." So they get distracted by that. While they're getting distracted, that's when our Lois goes in and finds out that the information she needs is in a special place. So before she could find out any more information on Superman, Clark, they get an alarm goes off, and they find out that Mixoplex has just showed up with Clark in another universe. So they go to chase him. Mixoplex did it on purpose because he was waiting for them to come and show up so he could continue what he was trying to do. So they show up. He was like right on time, and then he goes and he runs away, and they come out to fight. This is where you get the Lois and Superman reunion. Like, oh my God, you're okay, blah 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 blah. And so the other Lois is fighting Mixoplex, but he's saying like how he's weak and they stole something from him and all this stuff. So as they're out on this planet trying to chase him, he sneaks. Well, they're fighting Superman, not knowing Superman and them not knowing what's really going on. He sneaks into the ship where they left our Lois there because they didn't want her to make any situations worse or whatever. So he sneaks on there and basically steals the ship. The Loises are pissed because he stole the ship, and then I realized that the other Lois is on that ship as well. So I'm sorry, that's when they didn't do their meetup. Yeah, I forgot. I'm tripping. I jumped ahead of myself. Clark and Lois didn't see each other in that part. So they go, and he's like in there, and he realizes that Lois is on the ship. She scares him, and he's like, "Oh, out of all the ones, is your version." And like he said, he can't believe he was caught by that version of Lois, and he was kind of just so like weirded out by it. So basically, what he does is he kind of manipulates her to want to stay with him and do what he needs to do because of the simple fact that she found out where the information about Clark is and where she could go. So he takes her there. They get there. He basically walks her to the computer and says, "Hey, this is all the information. This is where you can find all the information." So she goes snooping and she finds out the file that she was looking for on Clark to find out, what's so special about this file. But it comes out as an orb, and she keeps it. Before finding out any other information, any other information, they are the Loises are now back into the main place because they found out where he was at. So now there's a all-out battle because when they show up, Mixoplex goes and he finds the location of a hat, which is his crown, I guess, and it gives him all his powers. So this is where I kind of took a little... I was kind of upset with the direction they was going with Mixoplex. But then when you get to the end of the episode, you kind of understand why. But like when they do this, it's like now he's like this I want to destroy the universe type of so strong and crazy type of villain once he put his hat on and get all his powers. And I was like, he's never been. First of all, he's never been that dangerous in that way. It was always some goofy craziness that could happen that could like mess up, something. But it was never really like super dangerous where he's going to destroy something himself because he's so mad at people. Like he wanted to take over, the world or something. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, that whole time I was thinking this has to be for a reason for him to do it this way. Because it doesn't make sense of why he's so gung ho about his power, I would say. So basically, when when they start fighting, they finally get him, but he fights them and he fights Clark. He gets the best of him because he's really really powerful at this moment in time. Like it's nothing stopping him. Like dead, like nothing. And so they had to trick him. They had to trick the trickster. And so what they did was they had these portals hanging around, and he kind of made him seem like that he was winning, but at the end of the day, basically Lois takes the helmet off of him, well the hat off of him, and he basically goes back to who he was. So they trap him and they arrest him, and then they say their goodbyes and they basically tell him like, you know, we're getting ready to take him back to where he needs to go, and then before they could even drop them off, because I think they were going to like wipe their minds or something. They were going to do something, but the female version of Jimmy Olsen like made it seem like they ran away and got away before any of that stuff could happen, when she was the one who really helped them get away because of some fact of the camaraderie between the two Jimmys, which is cool. I like how they got away. You get to the end credit scene. Well, not the end credit scene, but you get to the ending scene where, first of all, you get Lois and Clark. They do their whole kiss thing, talking about how they love each other. Then you get them leaving, and now they're like Lois is at home by herself, and she pulls out the orb and she looks at it, and you find out that not only does the orb basically tells her about not every version of Superman is good. That's the gist of what the orb was. And on the inside of the orb, it had a piece of kryptonite, which in this universe, nobody knows what the hell it is. No, I don't even think anybody has seen it yet so far, outside of that scene and in general of that universe. So now you get Lois like, what the hell is this? She doesn't even know what it is. So that's how it ends. That's how that episode ends. So then the next episode starts off basically with Clark waking up and realizing that he has super hearing, and he's going around, he's saving everything, he's like super crazy, and he can't get any sleep because it's so loud, but it seems to not bother him as much as it's more of he's so hyperactive and up, and like he's been drinking coffee all day, and he's just amazed at the fact that he could do all this stuff. But also in the back of his mind, he was wondering who is this guy trying to keep killing him and stuff like that. And so he's listening for them, and he hears his voice. And then also you find out about an invisible man who's running around. Well, first of all, he hears the guy's voice, and you find out that he's looking for somebody. And then he was wondering who he's looking for. And you come to find out he's looking for a guy who had the invisible suit from when he stopped Intergang earlier in the season. So he's looking for that guy, the last guy, so they could bring him in or whatnot. So while all this is going on, you get Lois and Jimmy. They're being summoned to the Daily Planet by the chief, and basically they're giving us not a story, but they're giving basically they're babysitting a fellow reporter from another news report, from another newsroom, who may or may not be leaving that newsroom, and the chief wants them to kind of convince her to come to them. I think she is a deep cut in the comic books, but I want to say I'm not quite sure. I think it's Vicky Vale, or not Vicky Vale. I'm tripping. That's not the name. But it's I forget what her name is. But yeah, she was supposed to be some big shot in Gotham, and they were thinking that she might want to leave the Gotham Gazette and come over to Daily Planet. So there's like, give her everything she needs and blah blah blah. So basically, she goes on this whole tirade saying that she wants to do a story on Superman, and Lois and Jimmy basically directs her into everybody that he saved or helped out in the last few episodes. And she was more like, okay, it's just like a fluff piece. I don't do fluff pieces. We need to find the real thing. Like, let's see who really doesn't like him. And she said she got an interview that she scheduled, and it was the henchman of Dr. Ivo, and he was already mad about the simple fact of Superman messing up his boss, and now he has no job. So he laid it on real thick. Was then gave old girl her byline and basically saying, is Superman a menace, or whatever, like, do we need to trust him? And she made it's like basically a one-sided story for about how Superman may not be here to protect us or whatever. And so Jimmy and Lois was like, no, it's not like that. So she ended up running off. So they thinking they got to try to stop her from reporting and all this stuff. So in this time, this is where Superman, because he's still like high on the fact that he could hear everything, and you could tell that he hadn't any sleep since it happened. So you could clearly tell he's running on like no sleep, and he needs to take a break, but he can't because everything is so loud. And usually when you see shows where they do stuff like that, they show the distress of why the person is upset and they can't get any sleep. Where in this particular case, Superman was like kind of more excited that this is happening, and more concerned of trying to make sure he gets the general before anything else bad could happen. So they give him basically a good little clue to find out where the invisible guy is. They find him. He finds him, but he's running away, and Superman basically stopped an accident, but he crashes into a truck, and where the guy in the truck is basically saying, you started the accident because nobody saw the invisible guy that he pushed out of the way. So now the world is looking at Superman like, is he really here to save us, or is he just trying to do some other stuff? That foreshadowing of what's happening with the little news reporter chick. So he finally gets up with this person. This person tells him that somebody took his sister, which is I want to say it's Banshee. I may be wrong on that one. And the other people on her team from Intergang, they was basically saying that somebody took him and he was looking for them, and he's like he found out where they at, but they're getting ready to change out where the locations is for good right now. He needs to try to get to them and free his sister and his friends before everything else goes crazy. So Superman's like, okay, cool, I'll help you, blah 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 blah. So he goes to help him, and come to find out that whole time it was a setup. And all of Intergang, you have Livewire, you have Heatwave, you have Slade Wilson. It's like all the villains from the season. You have Parasite. They all come out because now they want revenge on Superman. It was a ploy to get him to come out so they could actually get him and catch him, so Cadmus could get their hands on him, or I guess Task Force X. They get their hands on him, and so he was winning for a good little minute, but actually he won, but he forgot that he had to deal with Parasite, and Parasite basically drained all his power and took him out. It was a very powerful scene at the end. Lois and Jimmy kind of figured out what was going on, and so they was trying to chase. They saw what was going on like on the news. well, YouTube, I guess, because they was on their phone, and they found out what was going on, and they decided uh, go find out and kind of help Clark because they knew he was going to feel away and feel unwanted once everything was done. So they get there, and that's when they see that Superman basically is beaten, and they take him away. So also in when all this was going on, you see that the old chick basically lied about trying to switch over to the Daily Planet or thinking of switching over to the Daily Planet, and she basically just used them to come up with a story to get a story that plays out in Gotham to say how bad Superman is. So I was like, dang, they got played on both sides. So it kind of ended really weird. It was a lot of different things going on. Like you even had the part where Lois is actually looking at the orb again, just to see, like, the different bad versions of Superman, and she was just so like, she's so intent in saying, that's not Clark. He's not like that, and so she's kind of that's still in the back of her head when all this other stuff is going on. And that episode was a part one. So that the next part, which will be episode 9, is going to be later on this week, and I probably will be coming back next week to do my review on that, and probably the next episode of Harley Quinn as well. So speaking of Harley Quinn, let's go ahead and get into those 2 episodes that we missed out in the last couple weeks. So now we're on episode 5 and 6 for Harley Quinn. We already know that they're trying to get this whole work life balance going on with Harley and Ivy, and it's just so crazy how they have Harley in the Bat family. She's a good guy. Like, it's crazy how that's going on. And so it starts off with Harley being kind of like she's fighting with the Bat team, but they're in a dark alley, and so she can't really see. So a lot of things start happening, which is kind of crazy because she's almost always been in the dark, and they never really, if I'm not mistaken, they never really talked about her being in the dark and not being able to see. So they almost get beat up, but and this is the whole time where you have uh, Nightwing and everybody else kind of just telling her to be quiet and just fight. We don't talk while we're in the middle of battle, and just all this other stuff like that. So once that fight is over, the next day, Harley decides that she wants to get LASIK surgery. The funny part is they actually had Supergirl doing doing the surgery on her. I was like, Supergirl, really? Out of all the people, Supergirl is the one that's doing LASIK surgery on her, and they showed that it was her laser eyes that they fixed her LASIK, that did the LASIK surgery. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So she did the surgery, and now we're at a point to where how when you go to surgery, especially for eye surgery, and you can't see, they don't want you driving. So they asked her to have somebody come pick her up. And so Harley was like, oh, I got a whole bunch of people I could call. So she goes down the list, and nobody could come pick her up. So the last person she calls is Barbara, aka Babs, aka Batgirl. And so she calls her, can't get in touch with her. She's like, man, what's going on? So like, she can't get in touch with anybody. So then they go over and they tell you what's going on with Ivy now. So Ivy is now coming back to the Legion of Doom for the first time since the conference, after Lex had his whole fallout and little tantrum and everything. So she comes in, everybody's like congratulating her, saying she did a great job on, the conference and so forth, so forth. And even Lex came up to her, even though he had the tantrum on the episode before about it. He came up to her and gave her, congratulated her and said, you did a good job, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, why are you acting all cool and nice now? Weren't you the main person who was mad because, I was getting all that attention? Didn't you tell everybody to get off your moon base and everything like that? He was like, yeah. But I was also, like, that was me being a little, aggressive because, I was the effects of, I think he said Phoenix blood or something. Not Phoenix blood. I think he said it was some bird blood or whatever. And so basically, he was saying that it makes him a little aggressive. So he said, "Don't worry about that." And he said, "To congratulate you, I'm giving you access to my PR team." And so, she was like, "Okay, I really don't need a PR team." And he's like, "It looks like they're twins or just a group of guys who just, I don't know, something was weird about them when you first see them." And you're like, "Okay, cool, whatever." So so you skip from that and you forget that in the beginning of the episode, Jim Gordon is in like, in a cabin in the woods with his wife, and he's like, "Yes, I finally could have sex with you. It's been years since we actually done this, and my retirement is great, and this is a good time to do it." But then, right when they were about to do something, he gets a call, and it's somebody saying that they have a job for him to be a security officer at the Legion of Doom, and he's like, "Ooh!" And he basically was like super excited about taking that instead of having sex with his wife. So he he go ahead and he runs off and he leaves her in the cabin in the woods to go do the job. So so then we go back to Ivy, and basically the PR team is trying to get her image out there looking nice and cool and collective and stuff like that. And they introduce her. Well, they tell her about how they want to change up different things and what more stuff she did. She kind of didn't really feel it. And then somebody else kind of told her about a group of new villains that are coming up, that they want to start a team, and she should mentor them. So she decides she wants to do that, but the PR team decided they didn't want her to do that. So they kept trying to tell her how she shouldn't deal with them. And so the team that she was mentoring is called Natural Disasters, which was cool. It was a cool name when you find out who's in it. So then you get Terra, which they made her really abnormally big and strong. Like, I guess because she deals with rocks, but Terra's never really been that aggressive big chick. Well, she's been aggressive, but never the big chick like an Amazon. And then they put I'm about to say Heat Wave. Oh my god. But they put Volcana in it as well, and then another chick, which I didn't know anything about, but let's see, I think her name is Tafe, and I had to look her up. So it comes to find out that one, Volcana has only been in this show and in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited show. Very small roles, so it's not even really too much you can even learn about her. But Tafe, you find out, is literally the daughter of Swamp Thing. But here's the funny part: because Swamp Thing is Swamp Thing, he couldn't really have a child. So he tricks, he used what's the dude's name? I just had it in my head. Oh, that's weird. Why isn't that up? I know why. Because it was never up. Constantine. He uses Constantine to be the surrogate father for her, and I forget who her mother is, but basically Constantine have sex with the mother, and they use a child, and then he puts the seed of Tefei in said child that becomes his daughter. I was like, oh, that's weird. It gets deep. You got to look into it. It's real far. But this has nothing to do with the show. I've just introduced you to the natural disasters. And so like the whole time she's trying to like they're trying to get her attention and trying to let her know that, hey, we are here, follow you. But the PR team is constantly putting Poison Ivy in different situations, so she don't have to like kind of pay attention. So she's basically been neglecting them this whole episode. Um, so later on, you get back to Harley when she's trying to get in touch with Babs, and she's like, something's not right. So she goes in and goes to her room, and you find out her roommate is basically telling her that Babs is always gone for days at a time, sometime, and you never know. So she's like, oh shoot, somebody kidnapped Batgirl. So she goes to the Batcave and she tells Nightwing what's going on, and Nightwing was like, "Duh, yeah, she always gone for a couple of days because she's here. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Now we got to find out if she's kidnapped or whatever." Well, I think he knew she was kidnapped, so he's looking for her or whatnot. So they go looking for her. I think they find like a tracker or something, and so Dick was more like he he could care less or it's not that serious. So Harley, went back to the roommate and they both decided to go. I think that's who gave her the tip. I think the roommate was the one saying maybe she probably went to the cabin with her parents or with her mom or something. So they drive up in the snow to the cabin. And the funny part is when they get there, you see all the ice villains in the snow playing around having a snow fight, and you like, what type of craziness is this? So Harley automatically assumed that they took Batgirl, so she went to beat them up. Come to find out that they didn't take her; she was just in the cabin in the woods. And so Harley was like, "Yo, why are you here? And why you not answering your phone?" And she's like, "Well, I got stuck out here. I had to come and save my mom because my dumbass dad decided to uh, leave her out here in the cold by herself. So I came up here to save her." So then you go back, and I think you go back to Ivy, and that's when you see more animosity between her and her PR team, and they're setting up stuff that Ivy just doesn't want to do. Also, throughout this whole time, Harley, before going into the whole mystery of where Batgirl is, she was trying to get the attention to say, "Hey, I got my eyes fixed, and now I can see you even clearly, baby," and all this other stuff like that. So even at this time, they were setting seeds to show that Ivy was kind of neglecting Harley. So yeah, so like a lot of this PR stuff is just going on, and it's just not looking right. I think that Lex maybe gave her that PR team, just just kind of to show off, and not show off, but to more like get them to throw her off her game or whatever. So then you go back to, like I said, you go back to Babs and Harley now talking about just the different things of what's going on and why she's out there. And at the end of the episode, basically they find Nightwing in a tree, and he falls off the tree and he's dead. And so we like, what the hell? So that was the episode 5. So episode 6 starts off with the funeral of I'm about to say Batwing, of Nightwing, and it's like all the superheroes are there. Even some of the fans are there, and the craziest part is the casket. They had the casket. This is what we say. This is why everybody say that DC always be disrespecting Nightwing. Why they had a casket, and in the top of the casket, it's a big butt that's coming out to showing that his butt is too big to be in a regular casket, so they had to make a specialized casket for his butt. I'm like, oh my god, these people are so stupid. And so they have the thing. Everybody's trying to find out who killed Nightwing. Barbara gets up to make a speech, and she's kind of just dead inside because she just lost her best friend, and all this other stuff like that. So she's just kind of out of it. You go to the Legion of Doom, and you see that Jim Gordon is there now, still working as security. Because on the last episode he's working, and that's how you kind of get more information on the natural disasters and how they need to be helped by Ivy as far as being mentored and stuff like that. And speaking of all that, this is where you get like you meet up with Ivy, and she's like having like a little not a vacation, more like a spa day, but not with Harley. She's with the rest of her friends, and everybody's like, we got to say something about Nightwing's death. What are we going to put in there? So apparently she was going to say something, but before she could say anything, apparently everybody said she was the first one to respond, and that's when you find out that the PR team is doing stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing, or I'm sorry, doing stuff on her behalf, and it wasn't really on her behalf. And so she was mad about that, so she went to go find out what's going on. and found out how crazy they are, and she fired them. And so they didn't believe her, so they kind of stayed along and let her believe everything. Everything was good. I think they kind of convinced her, or not convinced her, told her that we are the ones who make your life a living hell or not a living hell. And so they put something out to spin and say that she did something wrong. And so she was like, okay, I gotta find a way to stop these people. So we go back to Harley in this one, and they're trying to find out who killed Nightwing. And she's looking around. She can't find out who it is. People are kind of convincing her that it could have been Ivy, and she said no, Ivy wouldn't have done that. She would have talked to me first. And so then we go, like, I think there's a whole bunch of other different things that Harley was doing, if I'm not mistaken. She was trying to get Babs out of her funk, and Babs was like in this hardcore thing saying it was Ivy, it was Ivy, it was Ivy. So they had to go try to search for things, and then I think they had Lucius Fox who shows up, and he was like backtracking a bat tracker to see exactly where he was prior to that, and it shows that he was at the Legion of Doom. And so she was like, something ain't right. It's not, because that's when Babs was like, yeah, she is she is the one who killed him, and we got to stop her, blah 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 blah. And so all throughout all this time, you had these little side stories going on. So like you had King Shark, since he done took over the babies, he's full custody of the kids now. So he needs somebody to babysit the kids. So he puts the kids in a fountain in front of the Legion of Doom. And I think somebody told him that the kids bit somebody's hand off or something. And he was like, "Oh, this is not the the daycare." And they was like, "No, this is not the daycare." So he had to go save the kids and stop the kids from biting people. And right when he does it, Jim Gordon is the one who's there, and basically King Shark convinced Jim Gordon to. Well, I'm sorry, Jim Gordon tells King Shark, "Hey, this is how you do things as a father with kids." And so he basically kind of teaches him how to raise kids. It's ironic because it's Jim Gordon who really didn't raise his daughter either. So it was that was the whole funny thing. Also, we go back to Ivy, and she is now pissed at her team, and so she comes up with the idea to get the natural disasters to do some stuff, but she had to apologize to them about the simple fact that she was neglecting them in the episode before, and even in that episode sometimes. So she apologizes, and she convinced them to work with her to get rid of the team. So she has this press conference to talk about some stuff, and they wanted her to talk about these kids that wanted to be like her, and she told them that they'll never be like her, and she basically breaks these kids' heart and everything when this stuff was happening. So the PR team got so pissed off, and whatever little power they have, they can mold together. So they start molding together. There's like 5 of them. They start molding together, and they start grabbing people from the crowd to make this big kaiju version of himself, of one of the PR people. And so what they did was she tells the natural disaster team, "Hey, this is y'all time to shine and get y'all recognition that y'all need to get." So she basically introduces like, "Oh, is that the new team, Natural Disasters?" And so they show up, and Terror basically takes over this big ass statue that was made for Poison Ivy and turned it into a walking kaiju monster suit, and it was fighting the PR team guy. That whole thing was crazy. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So you have the whole team. You have Terror controlling the statue. You have Tefe, I think that's how you say it. She's like doing plant stuff and swamp stuff because Swamp Man's daughter and all this stuff. And everybody, they just fighting this guy. They beat him, and so they become the new it team, and basically that's how Ivy kind of saves the day. And in the middle of that, you go back to Harley, and Babs, and they make their way to the Legion of Doom, and you see all the guys and everybody's like in there drinking and celebrating the fact that Nightwing is dead. So so Babs is just so pissed, and she starts going off on a rant and start beating everybody up, and she's like beating everybody in there without being in her Batgirl suit. And her dad sees her. He's like, "Hey, baby." She's like, "Get out of here! I don't want to talk to you." Blah 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 blah. And so she's just like, she's getting drunk and she's getting belligerent. And at first Harley was trying to stop her, but then she was like, maybe she needs to do this so she could get out of her funk and be, mad about it. So she beats him up, and oh yeah, in between all that too, you get a scene where the Joker, after killing the guy in the lawnmower in a couple episodes back, he comes to his family, tells his family, "Hey, I think I'm gonna go back and be evil again." And so, as a person who's watching the show, you like, okay, hold on, that means his wife is gonna be pissed and not understand. But apparently, the kids was like, "Oh my god, so you get to do crazy stuff, and we get to watch it. Oh, I want to see you do some crazy stuff." And then you look at the wife, and the wife looks like she's about to give him that hard stern and talking about how not to go back. And she's like, "Well, life is boring," and she flips the script and she wants to be evil too. So he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm going back into the evil business." So, like I said, you go back to the bar where they were fighting in the Legion of Doom, and so she finally cools off from beating everybody up. The dad tried to console her, and she basically curses him out, saying how he was never a good dad, blah blah blah, and how you're a better dad to these sharks than you were to your own kid. And so she gives him a talking, and he kind of gets sad and walk off. And then all of a sudden, Joker shows up and basically says, "Hey, I was the one who killed Nightwing." And so everybody's like, "What the hell?" And it goes off. So they basically ended with Joker coming back to being a villain, and he killed Nightwing. So I don't know what's about to happen next. This show right here is just getting crazy and crazy and crazy and crazy. Like they even had like the scenes where when they went to when you were at the funeral, you have you have I'm about to say Jeeves. Oh my god, Alfred. That's my Jeeves. You have Alfred in there in his jail thing, trying to come up with another scheme so he could actually get into the real jail where Bruce is. You have they all supposed to be apparently split up so nobody could come after them in the episode before. And this is when Robin gets scared and thinks somebody's coming to attack him, when it was really his mother coming to get him. Well, no, it was Toyman that came that messed up the funeral. Toyman came and messed up the funeral, and the Flash had to save everybody. And so, like, it was a part where they was in the Batcave and they were trying to find out who killed Nightwing, and some ninjas came in, and Robin thought the ninjas was coming to kill him because he thought he was the next person who was going to get killed. And then the ninjas put a note and said it was his mom saying, "Hey, things is getting crazy. You need to come back home with me." He was like, "All right, guys, I'll see you later." And it was just so funny how he kind of just how he leaves with his family. It's funny. I like how they set up Damian in this, but I know people who are true Damian fans who are going to be pissed because Damian is supposed to be a diehard ass. He's supposed to be an asshole, and he's supposed to be dangerous. And this is like a little, what, I don't want to offend nobody, but a Gen Z kid who doesn't know how to do anything for himself. And that's what makes it so funny, because it's like you wouldn't think that was him to be doing that. And so yeah, so it was a lot of little stupid stuff. I love this show. If you are not watching this or you haven't watched it, you need to watch it and definitely catch up so you can catch up and watch the next review that I do next week of this show. If you have any questions, concerns, any comments you've seen that I haven't reacted to, or anything that I haven't said anything about with these 2 episodes, you can go ahead and comment down below. My name again is DJ Fastnacks, and this is another one of my snack bites and reviews. I'll be back soon, and until next time, guys, I'm out.